Hello, my stamping friends. This is Renee Novak at blessedbycards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and I'm here today with another Make It Monday tutorial. Today, I'm going to share with you part 3 of our 4-part series, and today we're going to create this fun pinwheel quilted patch for our card. And so we're just going to use scraps. You're going to need 1¼ by 1¼ inch square scraps. This is from Silly Old Bear, my scraps from that, and we're going to create this card, and then I'm going to show you a few more cards that I have created uses the same technique. So let's get started with all the supplies you're going to need. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to need to do, of course, is to pick your designer series paper. You're going to need 8 1¼ inch squares. Now I did use a 1¼ inch square punch to punch mine out so they would all be exactly the same. But if you don't have a punch, you can just cut them squares 1¼ by 1¼ and you're going to need 8 of those in total. And if you're using 2 different coordinating patterns like I am using 2 different ones. You're going to need 4 of each. And here's my other one here. So we're going to need 4 of each, and then I just picked my Winnie the Pooh for my little accent in the middle. Okay, so let me just set this aside. So you're going to, in order to create your pinwheel, so step number 1 is cutting all your squares. Pick them out, cut them, and if you want them to coordinate, you're going to need 4 of each. Pick an accent or something you want in the middle of your card, and of course a greeting. And then to build your pinwheel, you're going to need 2 pieces of just white paper or a paper that coordinates with your pattern paper, and that's going to measure 2 5/8 by 2 5/8. And then what you want to do is kind of make a diamond out of it. Now you can do this on your grid paper if you have grid paper, because if you do have grid paper, let me pull in my grid paper here, you'll see that there in the very center of our grid paper, there is an exact cross that you can kind of line this up, and then you'll be able to evenly put one on this and one on this. So it's very easy if you use this, or if you have a glass mat. And if you don't have either of those, just simply take your ruler and draw a straight cross and then line it up. And so what you're looking for is this star looking made from 2 squares. Okay, so then all you're going to need to do is grab your liquid glue. Actually, not your liquid glue, because you're not going to want to adhere it all the way down, because you're going to need to tuck some of these in. But I did not bring my snail to my recording studio, so I am going to just have to wing it with the glue. But be sure that whatever glue you're using, that you don't put it all over the whole thing. You just want a tiny bit in the center until you go back to the end. So I am going to use the liquid glue, but I do highly recommend that you use the snail so that you can reposition. And hopefully this will go okay. All right, so what you want to do is you start with one of your squares, and you're just going to want to put a little border right around there. So there's a little border there. And then you're going to go to the next one, and you're going to pick your opposite paper, and I'm just putting a little bit in the center. And then you're going to go to the next point, and you're just going to continue all around your entire star, and you're going to continue to alternate your colors. And again, just put a little bit in the center so that you can come back and reposition. I'm going to go to this point, and I left a little bit of a border on there. As you can see on my sample for, I did use the coordinating paper, the Golden Glow paper, and for this purposes I'm just using the white, but use whatever you want to coordinate. And again, just a light touch with the snail adhesive or the glue, depending on what you've chosen, and just continue alternating all around that star. And then when you get to the end, you're going to have to tuck your pieces in. Okay, so here's my last piece here. This is the one I'm going to need to tuck. So I want it to go on top of the one I just did, and I want it to go underneath the one that I started with. So that's why it's really important, especially with that first piece, that you don't have as much glue on there. And I don't know if that's gonna make sense to you, but let me pull it over here. So you want to go on top of the one you just put down and underneath your first one, and that is what gives you the pinwheel look. And then you can go back and you can stick down with your glue and make sure all of these pieces are tucked down. And so that's why it's important to just use a little bit of glue at the beginning, and then you can go back and you can create your star. And then you just put your accent in the middle and pick your card base, and there you have it. So here's another card that I created using that same pinwheel, and this is the Made with Love Designer Series paper. And again, I did 8 squares of 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, and then I just used that same technique for the pinwheel, and then I mounted it on some Flirty Flamingo and some real red card stock, and I just punched out a heart, and the So Grateful From You is from Lily of the Valley. And so it just use whatever you have to create this card. It can be done with a variety of different scraps. So for our last card that I created, I used the a Stitched Season Designer Series paper, and that is the paper that coordinates with the Stitched Stocking Bundle. And then I used this little bow, and this is coming in September, this elegantly wrapped bow. I did add a little bit of Wink of Stella to make that sparkle. Hopefully you can see that on the video. And the only difference that I did for this one, after mounting all of my designer series papers, I cut another square to make this really look like a patchwork quilt. Now again, all the supplies and all the measurements are available on my blog at blessedbycards.com. You can download that and see all the measurements. Of course, depending on your designer series paper and your color choices, they might vary. But thanks so much for watching me. Join me on Wednesday for part 4 of this Quilting with Paper series to help us utilize all our designer series paper scraps. And hop on over to my blog at blessedbycards.com, download your free project sheet, and shop for anything that you need from the current catalog. So until next time, be blessed.